The following content has been provided by RWTH Aachen University.
We've built a prototype of some kind, maybe a paper prototype at the beginning or a software prototype, something to click through, something more advanced. Now the question is, what do we do with it? Now obviously the point of the prototype is to try it out. So we're going to talk about when we evaluate, why we do this, and what we evaluate, and give you a couple real concrete methods for doing tests of designs and implementations. And we're also going to talk about how to deal with testers. First of all, when you evaluate is obvious. It's in the analysis phase of the DIA cycle, right? That's where you evaluate, and you can do that with users or without users. That might be surprising. You can actually do some kind of evaluation without having users around. That's possible. Although most of the evaluation techniques we'll talk about will be things where you go and actually talk to people. What's the big reason for evaluation? Well, you might think you've made some really smart decisions for your design, but it's a good idea to get some feedback from your users that you're actually matching their needs. This is necessary even if your design was already user-centered. So it's not enough to say, hey, I talked to my users, I asked them in interviews what they want, and then I built it, and everything should be fine, right? No, you need to go back and sort of review and test and make sure that you're actually still on the right track. So that's why evaluation should really happen throughout the entire software development process. So early designs will often be evaluated informally, analytically, maybe inside the design team to iron out obvious mistakes, because involving external users is always going to be a little costly, right, in terms of time, people's time, your time, and also the effort to get these people into the lab or go out to them and evaluate them, test the system with them. So that's why you'll find that the later you get in your development DIA cycle rounds, the more you will be having to rely on testing with users as well. So you won't get around with it, especially not when you have sort of advanced versions. And everybody knows that because we already know that software companies do beta tests of their software, right, when they release them before they actually go and call it the real deal. But that's a very, very, very late stage. That's basically when everything should be done, the interface should be ironed out, and you're just going to go for mass testing to find the weird combination of software, OS, and hardware that doesn't work for your system or something. So beta testing is a super late phase of evaluation. So we want to figure out, does the system actually help the user? Does it actually solve the issues that we wanted to address? Does it offer the right features? Or are we missing things? And are those features actually easy to reach that are important? Or did we put some obscure features in the interface and the things that users need all the time are hidden away in a sub-dialog? Do also users, how do they react to the system? How easy does it seem for them to learn and use the system? Not just to use it after we've explained it to them, but also how long does it take them to understand it? Is it a big effort to understand? Can we make that easier? Or is it something they pick up very quickly? How do they feel? What is their general reaction to it? Do they feel it's helpful? Do we get a positive feedback from them? Or are they frustrated with it, with the complexity? Are there areas that overload them? Are you presenting them with a conceptual model that is so different from what they used to think about their task that they can't get to grips with the new system? And then finally, of course, you want to find out specific problem areas, bugs, unexpected behavior, unexpected situations, really. You might have thought of everything, and everything that you sort of thought about in your software, the software handles beautifully, but there will always be that strange situation that you weren't aware of that the user puts the software through, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know that situation ever came up. There you are. You provided a wonderful field to enter people's personnel number, and it accepts digits only because you're a good interface designer, and It doesn't take letters because people shouldn't be typing letters into personnel numbers. And then somebody comes around and says, oh, wait, but my number is, 123589111A because something, something happened in the personnel department. They needed to give that special letter out. And you didn't know that that case even existed. So those kinds of things will always pop up, of course. And it's really quite amazing to see what kind of mistakes people will make with your system. They will make all the mistakes that you expected they would make, and then they will make some more that you had no idea would be possible even, right? And at this point, it's really important to remind yourself, it's not the people who are stupid, it's just a mismatch between their conceptual model and what you put into the system. Something's not right. And the obvious way to tweak that is to adopt your system, right? To make that work for people, not the other way around. Now, where do we do that evaluation? You've got two options. You can have the testers come to your place and in your lab do a test, or you can go to the tester's workplace, home, wherever they are using the system for real, and do your evaluations there. If you do this in the lab, then you have an advantage. You can use special equipment like see-through mirrors, like semi-transparent glass. We actually have one of those setups up in our lab where you can see through a screen into the room. And you can have special computers that are equipped with software that will sort of show the person who's observing the test multiple views of cameras from different angles, and the screen sort of captured in real time and stuff like this. Video recording can be set up and debugged and perfectly arranged. You don't have any disruptions because it's your lab. You can close the door. It's quiet. The problem, of course, is exactly that. It's not the real environment of the user, right? It's not, he doesn't have his office shelves. He doesn't have his wall calendar around. You might be writing, I don't know, an online calendar app for a company, and you don't realize that the secretary using this is looking at their wall calendar, the paper calendar, every 10 minutes. Right? You won't capture that if you do the testing in your lab because the wall calendar isn't there. So the situation is somewhat unnatural for the user to come into your lab and try out the software. It's not in their natural environment where they work or live, and that might make some of the results you get questionable. In some cases, it's the only place to do your testing. If the real place is really dangerous where the software is going to be used, or very remote, like you're designing software for the International Space Station, not all your testing is going to be field testing. You're not going to fly up there every month. Or if you need a controlled situation, right? If you need to have control over some situations, like you want to verify precisely whether linear menus, like we used to do them, or circular menus, which are arranged in a circle, are faster. You want to determine that once and for all for your application. Then you want a very controlled setting where you can make sure people only operate those menus, they don't get distracted, and you can do an actual controlled A/B study to compare the two situations. If you go into the field, you study things in the user's natural environment. And the advantage, of course, is that that's more realistic, partly because of the disruptions that happen. The situations and the behavior, therefore, becomes more natural for the user, and it's also better suited to things that go for a long time, because otherwise you're taking people out of their workplace for a long time, and that's going to be a problem at some point. They might be needed at their job. Now, the noise and the task interruptions are part of the real life there, but they might be a problem for your recording. Maybe it's harder to capture good audio here. And it will still feel like a test situation. Even if you go to the natural environment, the user will still know that he's being recorded and what he's doing is being captured. So it still might be a little tricky. But sometimes that's still the better way to go.
This content was provided by RWTH Aachen University.